Okay, let's go to number C, cultivation method. The number one is the use of the agricultural chemicals. So basically, in organic, agricultural chemicals should not be used at all. So, inspector needs to verify whether the applicant using the agricultural chemicals or not. So, a comment here. Upon verification of the form, there was no symptoms or the risk of using the agricultural chemicals. Upon verification, the surroundings of the field, the warehouse, or some places which are related to the agricultural farming has been verified, but there was no symptoms or the risk of chemical using. So this kind of description, this kind of the verification on this comment is very important. So basically this one should be yes. But if inspector found some evidence or the symptoms or the residue, like such as the agrochemical product labels on the warehouse or on the field, it could be considered as a major non-compliant. That's the evidence, that's the symptom or the risk of using some chemicals onto the field. In this case, inspector have to take a sample for the chemical residue testing of the soil. Okay, add some comment here. What the inspector verified during the audit, on-site verification. Okay, next one is the implementing of the crop rotation. So this is okay, ask for the 3 years of the field history on the OSP. So inspector needs to verify 3 years field history to evaluate this section to the standard. Okay, this is the 3 years of 3-year field history. So all the field details must be here, and what the crops were in 2015, what crops were in 2014, what crops were in 2013. So in the future, the plan is important, but more important thing is what the farmers have been done up to now. So upon verifying of all the crops for the past 3 years, inspector needs to have to evaluate whether it's in compliance to the standard or not. So basically, crop rotation is required to rotate crops, legumes, the root crop, like corn and bean, wheats, every year should be rotated. So as far as I know, in other certification body, local certification body, also ask for this crop rotation because of this reason, many farmers, or most of the farmers, are doing the crop rotation correctly. So in the case of the perennial crop, if sugarcane continually planted on the same field, in this case, crop residue, crop rotation may not be applied, but like orchard, fruits orchard, in this case here, it says here the crop of different so yearly soil culture using legumes, green manure, or something must be implemented for the perennial crop like orchard. But in many cases, I've seen many operators in North and South America. They are saying, the operators are saying that crop rotation is not applied to the perennial crop, but the Korean standard is still asking for the perennial crop, the rotation for the crop rotation for the perennial crop by doing sod culture. It means that plant something under the tree or between the trees, their legume or the manure, and then if it grows some certain level, and then incorporate it to the soil again. So the purpose of the crop rotation is the recycling of the soil nutrition. But the planting something under the tree or planting between the tree, something between the tree, is not that easy. That's why if it's the case, just grow the natural vegetations, because that's the also nutrition, and then cut it and incorporate it into the soil again. This is the considered as the like a soil culture, even though something is not planted, but this is kind of some sort of crop recycling, their nutrition recycling of their nutrition. That's why inspector needs to verify here. Upon verification of the documents, this farm doing the corn after beans, after like alfalfa something, so to comply to the Korean standard, to the organic standard. So in most of cases, this one is easy to comply to the standard, because as the other certifiers are require the crop rotation as well. So inspectors need to verify the system, crop rotation system. What's the product? What's the rotating system? What was the crop next to the crop? So it needs to summarize here briefly. Okay, let's go to the number 3, use of the organic matter to soil. So this is talking about the input materials onto the soil. If, as far as I know, some alfalfa or some other crops may not use anything onto the field. If it's the case, it's really simple or not applicable, or nothing used onto the farm for the past 3 years. But the orchard or some other farms are using so many inputs. So donor this is required to declare all the inputs onto the system plan, organic system plan. So this is in order to evaluate all these sections, inspector need to see the organic system plan, agriculture input list here. And this is agriculture input list. This is the part of the organic system plan. So all the input materials should be described here, specified here. The purpose is the fertilizer and disease control, the pest control, weed control, and the others. So according to Korean standard, nothing must be used onto the weed control. Weed control should be done by mechanical, not by the input. Okay, anyways, for all the inputs, product name should be specified here. And if it's a fertilizer, please check your fertilizer and the product name here. The main ingredient is like a sawdust or the chicken manure or the cow manure or like a debris of the crop, something. If it's produced on farm, then just write here on farm produced, and direction for use, the ground application or something like this. Frequent see of the amount, approximately how amount of the crop the inputs are used for every yearly. This is yearly amount, and applied to the field number of the field number applied. So you have to check all the inputs here and summarize your verification on here is organic matter to soil. And this is talking about all the inputs on the list. So if all the inputs are used according to the agriculture input list, and then all the inputs are compliant to the standard. It could be said could be written here, right here. Operators are using as indicated onto the agriculture input list, and there was nothing found except the product listed onto the agriculture input list. This is very simple. And then all those agriculture input list, all the products listed in the agriculture input list should be evaluated or approved by the local local certifier. If it applies to the NOP standard or the EU standard, generally speaking, it's also allowed it by the Korean standard. So the important thing is to complete this organic agriculture input list properly. So main ingredient should be specified in detail on this section. Like if the products are multi-ingredient product and all the ingredient must be specified here, and all the ingredient must be evaluated to the standard whether it's compliant or not. Okay, document evidence of the agriculture input use. Inspector needs to collect or ask or the related documents for the input product before going to the on-site inspection. So relating to all this product, input product, documents for all this input product must be collected before the inspection. So during the audit, inspector just verifying whether the operators are using the inputs according to your system plan. Okay, so inspector needs to verify here. Inspectors were using this and this, and as described on to the agriculture input list, and the documents were kept on the farm. The specifiers, what documents were collected, what documents were verified during the audit. Okay, next one is to number 5. This is all talking about input materials, use of the allowed material. This is talking about the minor elements which are listed onto the Korean certification, the allowed material list. So if everything's are on the section, it's column 3, don't need to re-specify here. Just see here, just right here, see number 3, section number 3, column number 3, or column number 4. Or we can have some comment here that this and this of a lot of materials were used, and it was verified that in compliance to the Korean standard. Okay, so these 3 are all for the outsourced input materials. And go to number 6, use of on-farm compost. And this is talking about the on-farm compost. And many cases, the farms are using on-farm compost made with the on-farm crop debris and on-farm animal manure and some other byproducts from the farm. But in case of not using any on-farm compost, just simply mark here not applicable and add a comment here. This farm is not produce any on-farm compost. That means that this farm is just dependent for the inputs from outside. Okay, that's okay. That's not violence to the Korean standard. Could be, but just in case, if the operator produce certain on-farm compost, the inspector have to require the record keeping against to this standard. So same as the NOP standard, Korean standard was asking for the record of the temperature management and the turnover things. Anyways, if manure, the liquid manure derived from livestock excrement, hereinafter refers to as the manure and liquid manure derived from livestock excrement, must be from farms with the organic and non-antibiotic livestock products certification and completely composted before use. This means that all the manures used on to the organic farm must be organic. In the case of NOP standard, even though the manures are coming from a factory farm, which is not certified as the organic, but still it could be used if it's a fully fermented, fully composted. But Korean standard is different. The animal manure must be come from organic farm. The mother farm must be organic. So even if it's if the compost are fully composted and fermented, the manures are fully composted and fermented, but still not enough to qualify to the Korean standard. If the manures are coming from uncertified conventional factory farm, so in this case, inspector have to take the sample of the manure or the compost and send it to the laboratory for the antibiotic testing and the heavy metal testing. Well, in most of the cases, just antibiotic testing is enough. So inspector have to remember that the manure source have to verify it. But the manures are from on farm. That could be okay, but inspector still needs to verify whether the owner is used some animal drugs onto the animal. So, but in other farm, in many farms in North and South America, they grow some animals, but they raise the animals organically just to feed them the organic crop residues. In this case, that's considered as the organic manure. So those manures could be used onto the organic, but the manure from the outside, from the conventional livestock farm, must not be used to the organic field. But if it has the antibiotic test report or the heavy metal test report, that could be used onto the organic farm. So the most important for this section is keeping the record for the composting and the fermentation and the antibiotic test report for the conventional manure. If the manure are coming from the conventional farm. Okay, we will we'll discuss more detail and next time, and then we'll skip this or just pass this. Okay, this is talking about, and next is go number 7, pest and disease control of field. So this is talking about the pest and disease control and the weed control. So inspector needs to verify how they control the past and disease. So if if the operators are using some inputs to control the past and disease, inspector have to describe here what is the major past and disease and how the operator control the past and disease. What inputs are used, how, and just not necessarily describe here a detail, but the brief information should be provided on this comment section for the approver. And the weight control, how do they control the weight? If it's a mechanical way, how many times the mechanical weight control have been done per every year, every season? And then how do you keep the records? All those things should be verified during the audit and should be summarized on this comment section. Okay, next one is a record control. So this is talking about something. This is about the document audit trail to the past, and this is control and the weight controlling and all the inputs. So inspector needs to verify what documents they are keeping, operators are keeping on his hand to prove that their management is in compliance to the standard. So those things should be verified and they're summarized here. Okay, and if something collected during the audit, the document name should be added here, somewhere here, as an attachment. And those evidential documents must be listed at the bottom of these documents. Here, list of attached documents, and number 1 is like input related documents, and those documents should be written somewhere here to refer the supporting informations on this. Okay, we will see, we'll discuss, we'll prepare another detailed information lecture next time. Okay, thank you. And next section we'll go to the section D, product quality control. Thank you.